Looking at the steering wheel as well as the cluster screen inside of the Kia K4 GT line. This is for the GT line specifically because there's a unique cluster screen that's available and there's also a unique infotainment. If you want to walk through in the other versions of the screens, you'll find those down in the description. But let's dive in and I'll show you everything that you need to know. First thing is that the steering wheel inside of the ride is manual telescoping. So down by your left knee, there's a release there to go in, out, up and down to find that perfect position. Once you do, click it in order to lock it back into place. Inside of the K4, you're going to find seat memory as well. So what you're going to do is get your driver's seat set up the way that you'd like to. You're going to get your side view mirror set up the way that you'd like to. And once that's all set up, you're then going to push and hold either 1 or 2. So if we just push and hold there, that's going to save it in. So where this comes into play, let's say if somebody hops into the car and starts playing around with settings, so they've adjusted your mirrors, etc., all you have to do, push, and this is going to put everything back to your default layout there. And then there's also a heated steering wheel. So there's 2 levels for the heated steering wheel. And then you're going to find heated, potentially ventilated seats, just depending on which trim level of the vehicle that you're in. And there are so many different buttons and stocks. So starting off with the stock along your left-hand side is going to be for your lights. So you've got your different running lamp modes that are available. You're going to be in the auto mode though, the majority of the time. And if you push away, that's going to put you into an auto headlamp mode. So what that means is that if the vehicle recognizes high beams are needed, turns them on for you automatically. If somebody's oncoming, it turns them off again. It's just that in the auto mode, you can't permanently lock your high beams out. So if you go into the upper headlamp mode, push away, that turns your high beams on, pull towards you in order to turn them off. Like I said, auto mode the majority of the time. And then you've also got a switch here in order to toggle your fogs on or off. The car does have paddle shifters too, so a minus on the left-hand side, plus along the right-hand side. So if you wanted to drop gears in order to be able to shoot up your RPMs to pass people, you can do that. You can also push down in order to be able to drop gears to rely on engine braking, which you don't really want to do too often. So you can use your paddle shifters there, or the manual hand shifter there. So if you drop down into drive, push over, you could then move up or down in order to be able to adjust out your gears that way too. But if you've never used paddles before and you want a better explanation of when to use them, why to use them, etc., you'll find that down in the description of this video. And the buttons along the left-hand side here. So these ones are going to be for your cruise control. So you can toggle it on this way. It won't work right now because I'm parked, so you have to actively be driving. But when you turn it on, it sets it at your current speed. You could then push up or down to increase, decrease 1 kilometer, 1 mile per hour at a time. Push and hold up, push and hold down in order to increase or decrease at larger increments. You can hit the brake to cancel your speed. You can hit the middle button there to cancel your speed and then push in again to resume your previously set speed. Then there's also a distance indicator. So there are 4 unique levels. I want you to think of that like a 1 Mississippi, 2 Mississippi for how close or far you are away from that leading vehicle. I'm personally okay level 1 the majority of the time. You might want to be on 3 or 4 just depending on your comfort level. Then you've got this little feller. So if you toggle that one on, so just a button push, you've got a little steering wheel there. So if it recognizes the lane markings, what we've done is we've entered the lane follow assist mode. So if the vehicle recognizes those lane markings, it can keep you perfectly balanced in your lane without any sort of user feedback whatsoever. You technically have to keep your hands on the steering wheel though, because after a few minutes, or I should say a few seconds, it's going to let you know that you should put your hands back on the steering wheel. If you take that same button and if you push and hold it, that is going to toggle the lane keep assist system on or off. So lane follow, lane keep are different. With the lane keep assist, if you start to veer over into a lane without signaling, it's going to nudge you back into your lane. What the lane follow assist, that's the one that's not full self-driving, but damn does it get very, very close at the same time. Then inside of the infotainment system, you can also adjust one thing out with your, let's go set up here. Let's see, driving assistance, and you've got your driving convenience there with Smart Cruise. So you could adjust your distance that way. So you can use the distance button or gap adjustment this way, or adjust it this way for how close or far you are away. And then there's acceleration and reaction. So how fast or slow is the vehicle going to respond when you've got that cruise control system enabled. And it's strictly going to be the Smart Cruise Control. So there's no option for the regular cruise control inside of the K4. But if you want to see a live demonstration of this in action, you'll find that down in the description of this video. Then along the right-hand side here, so you've got your, obviously stick there for the wipers. So if you go up a single level to your intermittent level, you could then use the rocker here in order to adjust out your intermittent speed, or go to one of the crazy modes. And then you're just going to pull in towards you there in order to get that wiper fluid going. Got your plus paddle on that side, and then a series of other buttons here. So before we get to these ones, you've got your voice command prompt. So you'd be able to do things like change songs, radio stations, you can navigate using your voice, and a number of other things. If you had a phone hooked up, so Android or iPhones, you do a long button push and hold, and that is going to activate, that'll activate either your Siri or your Google Assistant. There's a volume rocker there, so you can adjust volume this way, push into mute. You can also adjust your volume this way, same idea, push in order to mute. You can answer or hang up on a phone call, and then if you've got presets set up inside of the vehicle here, so under your media, AM, FM, Sirius XM, etc. So if you have your presets set up there, you could then use the switch here in order to be able to move between all of your available preset stations. But if you push and hold that up or down, that acts as a seek button. So definitely recommend get your presets set up, but you can also adjust out and change stations using your voice that way. And then you've got two custom buttons there. So a mode versus your custom button. So if we go into setup for a second, and then buttons, you've got a custom button down there, but then your two on the steering wheel. So what does this little feller do? You can get it to do nothing, go to your basic home screen. You can turn the display off, etc. So now if we were to push that button, brings us into the home screen. And then your mode button there, what does that one do? So you go to your buttons and your mode. So this is going to be all of the available sources inside of the vehicle. So what do you listen to? Sounds of Nature, FM and Sirius XM, or any of these options. So now if you hit the mode button, it's going to jump you between all of the available sources that you've set up there. And back home again. Then down along the very bottom of the steering wheel, you've also got your drive mode selector. So you could change out between different drive modes there. Sport mode is going to change up your shift point. So rather than it shifting at 2,500 RPM, it might shift at 4,000 plus RPM. And just down by your left knee, there are a few other options here. So you can increase or decrease the brightness of the cluster screen. There's your electronic parking brake. So you're just going to pull out in order to turn the parking brake on. You're going to push and hold the brake pedal and then push in order to turn it off. And then you can also toggle your traction control system on or off. The only time you want to do that one, ideally like wintertime driving or if it's icy out, slippery, etc. So that's going to disable that traction control system in order to help out with wheel slippage. Inside of the cluster screen of the K4, the setup is pretty simple. So you've got your current fuel gauge along the very bottom, along with your current speedometer, outside temperature, whatever gear you're currently in, so park, reverse, neutral, drive. As you go into drive or reverse, depending on whether or not you've got the forward reverse park sensing systems, those are going to show up. You've also got your current odometer along the bottom right, your engine temperature, along with your tachometer there too. Then you've also got the flexibility of customizing this layout here. If we go to setup for a second here, you've got cluster, where you can adjust out a few different things. You can adjust the brightness, but you can also change up the theme and the style. So if you wanted it simplified, so more of like that classic look, so simple versus classic there. I'm a bigger fan of the circle. Gives you more of that classic look. And then you can also link things to your drive mode. So where this comes into play is as we move between different drive modes, you've got your different looks, one way or the other. I'm a big fan of the sport mode, so it changes out your shift points, but I like the look of the sport mode. But it also uses slightly more fuel. So if you go into your normal mode, but maybe you love the look of the sport mode, you can lock it in to any of these styles or just link it to your drive mode. But there are different modes that are available with different looks. So you can really kind of customize this. Outside of the basic customization options there aren't any other ways to customize the screen, but it's nice that you can kind of make this your own if you'd like to. And then you've got a series of different pages that are available. So as we jump through using the pad along the left-hand side there, so you could push here in order to go between a few different screens. So you've got your current trip. So that's from your last ignition cycle. So when the vehicle was first turned on, that's how far you've gotten with your fuel economy. If you go down one level, that's your since refueling, your current reset. So you've got since last refueled, so when you're fueled up, how far have you gotten? And then your reset is your total. You can see along the bottom there, it says hit OK in order to reset. So if you just push and hold, The OK button there, so your little scroll wheel, that's going to let you go into a reset option for all 3 options. And then you've also got your tire pressure. So as you drive, you'll be able to see your current tire pressure, and you can adjust it between PSI, kPa, or bar inside of the infotainment system. Moving through, next up is going to be your route. So if you had an active route going inside of the vehicle, it's going to show you not full mapping cluster, but you at least get some turn-by-turn directions as you go.
Guidance will start now.
So you can see there your basics, and then
left.
as you cancel the route, it just drops back into a basic compass view. And that's strictly going to be for factory navigation. So if you had your phone hooked up through Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, your turn-by-turn directions would show up there. And then you've also got your setting options. So if you push and hold the OK button there, that's going to jump you into a series of additional settings inside of the infotainment system. If you go into your setup there, general, and then units, this is where you're going to change your measurement units. So as a default there, well, I'm in Canada, so it's going to be kilometers, so you can be miles or kilometers, and it adjusts everything in between. If you're in miles, you obviously, if you're in the US, be US miles per gallon. In Canada, you want to be on liters per 100 as your default. And then you can also change out your other measurement units. Push start with your hand shifter. Park, reverse, neutral, drive with a manual mode. So whether you use your shifter that way to change gears or paddles, works the same way. With your auto hold setting, so if you've got that enabled, so you've got yourself in drive, take your foot off the brake, the car is not going to move. Yay, nay. There's your park sensing system. So as you get closer to obstacles, that beeping that you get as you back up, you can toggle that one on or off. And then there's also a button push in order to get to your 360 camera. Oh, I know that's a lot of information, but that's everything that you need to know about the steering wheel, as well as the cluster screen inside of the Kia K4.